It's pretty wild when you think about it. All across the world, you have these ancient civilizations separated by oceans and centuries, but they built these impossible structures and they told these stories that are just eerily similar. Stories about gods coming down from the sky. Were they just making things up, or were they remembering something? Today, we're going to dig into that mystery, and we'll do it by connecting the dots between ancient Mexico and ancient Greece. And this is the big question, isn't it? What if those ancient legends, those stories of gods descending from the heavens, what if they weren't just myths? What if they were actual memories, records of real-life visitors from the stars? That's the core idea we're diving into.
All right, let's jump in. Our first stop is the incredible Mayan city of Chichén Itzá, deep in Mexico. It's home to a pyramid that doesn't just scrape the sky, it seems to pull a god right out of it. So, to really get what's going on with this pyramid, you first have to know about their main god, Kukulcan. Now, the Maya always described him as a winged serpent or a flying serpent. And here's the most important part of his story. He came down from the heavens to teach mankind, and he promised he'd return someday. Definitely hang on to that detail. Okay, check this out. This is how the Maya basically turned that legend into a massive, real-life celestial event. Twice a year, right on the equinox, the sun hits the pyramid at this super precise angle. And as you can see, the platforms create these perfect triangular shadows that crawl down the staircase, forming the body of a snake that connects right to a stone serpent head at the bottom. It's literally a message written in light and shadow.
Now, for ancient astronaut theorists, this is way more than just some clever architecture. They see this as a literal reenactment of an event. To them, the message is crystal clear. Kukulcan was a real being who visited Earth from the sky, and this entire pyramid is a monument to his arrival and to his promise to come back.
So that's Mexico. But what if I told you this same kind of pattern shows up again halfway around the world? We're heading over to the Greek island of Avia to find another set of mysterious buildings with a story that's going to sound very familiar.
On this island, there are these 25 ancient stone structures called the dragon houses. The main one is way up on top of Mount Ochi. Now, listen to how these details line up. The name of the mountain, Ochi, actually comes from an old word that means to descend. And what does local legends say happened right there on that peak? The god Zeus descended from the heavens? See what I mean?
And this is where your jaw just kind of hits the floor. We're talking about buildings made with enormous stone blocks, some weighing up to 10 tons. And they were put together at an altitude of almost 5,000 feet. Mainstream archaeologists have a really tough time explaining how or even why anyone would take on such a ridiculously hard construction project with ancient tools in a place that's so hard to even get to.
So let's just step back for a second. We have two completely different cultures, an ocean and thousands of years apart, both building these incredible structures in specific spots that are tied to legends of gods coming down from the sky. This is exactly where the theorists step in with a big, unifying idea.
I mean, when you lay it all out side by side like this, the parallels are they're really striking. You've got a winged serpent god descending in Mexico, the king of the gods descending in Greece. You have a pyramid built with insane astronomical precision on one side, and a megalithic structure built against all logic at a high altitude on the other. And in both cases, the interpretation is that they mark the arrival of a visitor from the stars. And this brings us to a really crucial part of the whole theory. It's all about rethinking the words they used. What if dragon in Greece, or winged serpent in Mexico, wasn't meant to describe a monster? What if it was just their best shot at describing something technological, like a ship that these powerful beings came out of?
Okay, but let's pump the brakes a second. We've got to be critical, right? Let's put on our skeptical archaeologist hat and really pick this apart. We need to separate the hard facts from the speculation. How well does this whole argument really hold up?
A great tool for this is something called Occam's razor. You've probably heard of it. It basically just says that the simplest explanation is usually the best one. The one that doesn't require you to make a bunch of new assumptions. So is aliens the simple explanation here, or does it require the biggest assumption of all? So let's break it down. The physical evidence, the precise alignments, the 10-ton blocks, that's totally real. No one denies that. Now, the conventional explanation, that this was all done with human cleverness and massive social organization, it's definitely challenging for us to imagine, but it doesn't require us to invent anything new. The extraterrestrial explanation, though, well, it might seem to solve the how did they do it problem, but it is pure speculation. It requires you to take one giant leap of faith that aliens exist and that they came here.
And that really gets to the heart of the skeptical view. Just because we can't easily figure out how they did something, does that automatically mean the answer has to be aliens? Or could it just be that we're underestimating our own ancestors, that we're not giving them enough credit for their skill, their knowledge, and their sheer willpower?
So, at the end of the day, we're left with this absolutely fascinating choice. Are these incredibly similar legends from around the world the last echoes of a real shared history of extraterrestrial contact? Or do they show us something just as profound about ourselves? A universal human need to look to the heavens, to explain the things we don't understand, to tell stories of power coming from above. The evidence is out there, but the interpretation, well, that's up to you.